Question 1. In light of recent developments, Mr. Lawson owns a Connecticut-based HVAC contracting business. He carried a commercial general liability (CGL) policy with an occurrence form from 2019-2021. In 2025, client files lawsuit alleging property damage caused by faulty installation in 2020. Mr. Lawson is now insured under new CGL policy written on claims made basis. Which policy, if any, would respond to this claim? A. The new claims made policy since the claim was filed during its active period. B. Neither policy responds since the damage was discovered after both expired. C. The 2019-2021 occurrence policy because the damage occurred during its term. D. The current policy, but only if retroactive date is endorsed to 2020. Answer. Correct answer. C. The 2019-2021 occurrence policy because the damage occurred during its term. Explanation. Occurrence-based policies respond based on when the event occurred, not when the claim is made. The alleged damage occurred in 2020 while the occurrence form policy was active, making it the responding policy. Even though the lawsuit was filed in 2025, the claims made policy only responds to claims made during its period and only for events occurring after the retroactive date. Since this claim relates to 2020 and lacks confirmation of backdated retroactive date, the current policy would not respond. This aligns with our CGL occurrence versus claims made form language and is reinforced by Connecticut Insurance Regulation, Section 30 to 334. Question 2. Through careful analysis of commercial risk layers, why would a direct insurer choose facultative reinsurance over treaty reinsurance in a Connecticut-based contract for a high-risk biotech firm? A. Facultative reinsurance offers automatic acceptance of similar risks. B. It allows the reinsurer to review and accept each risk individually. C. It is more cost-effective for portfolios of similar risks. D. It eliminates the need for disclosure of underwriting details. Answer. Correct answer. B. It allows the reinsurer to review and accept each risk individually. Explanation. Facultative reinsurance is used when risks are unusual or large, often when they fall outside of normal treaty parameters. The reinsurer can individually evaluate each submission and choose to accept or reject it. This offers flexibility and precision in high-risk or unique cases like biotech facility with complex exposures. In contrast, treaty reinsurance offers blanket coverage for all risks in category and is not risk-specific. This question aligns with NAIG Reinsurance Model Law, Pound 785, and the Connecticut Reinsurance Regulations under Section 3885 et seq. Question 3. Despite the fact that is Dunham an employer, a distribution warehouse was injured on site due to a co-worker's reckless use of forklift. She filed both workers' compensation claim and civil suit against her employer. What is the most likely outcome under Connecticut's exclusive remedy doctrine? A. She may proceed with both claims concurrently. B. Her civil suit will proceed if negligence is proven. C. Her civil suit will be barred. Workers' compensation is her sole remedy. D. She may receive double compensation if employer liability is clear. Answer. Correct answer. C. Her civil suit will be barred. The workers' compensation is her sole remedy. Explanation. The exclusive remedy doctrine limits an injured employee to the workers' compensation system, barring civil suits against employers for job-related injuries. This protects employers from tort liability while ensuring prompt compensation for employees. Connecticut law under C. G.S. SS 31-284A enforces this provision unless gross negligence or intentional harm is proven, which is not the case here. Civil claims may be brought only against third parties, not the employer, under Connecticut Workers' Compensation Act. Question 4. As demonstrated by a recent compliance audit, Mr. Avery, a licensed commercial lines agent in Connecticut, frequently offered premium discounts that were not filed or approved with the Department of Insurance. Which of the following best describes his actions? A. They are acceptable under market competition exceptions. B. They violate Connecticut's Unfair Trade Practices Act. C. They are permitted with client disclosure. D. They must be disclosed annually but are not inherently illegal. Answer. Correct answer. B. They violate Connecticut's Unfair Trade Practices Act. Explanation. Unapproved premium reductions are considered rebating or misrepresentation, which are classified as unfair trade practices under the Connecticut Unfair Insurance Practices Act (CUIPA) CGS SS 38-816. All rates and discounts must be filed and approved before use. Offering unfiled discounts creates an unfair market advantage and may result in disciplinary action, including license suspension or civil penalties. Question 5. From a practical standpoint, which valuation method would best serve an owner of a manufacturing facility in Connecticut who wants to ensure that, in the event of a total loss, the properties were built with modern materials without accounting for depreciation, A. Actual cash value, B. Functional replacement cost, C. Stated amount, D. Replacement cost? Answer. Correct answer, D. Replacement cost. Explanation. Replacement cost (RC) coverage reimburses the insured for the cost to repair or replace the property using materials of like kind and quality without deducting for depreciation. This contrasts with actual cash value (SCV), which subtracts depreciation, while functional (RC) considers utility over exact replacement used in older buildings, and stated amount sets a cap. RC is ideal for modern rebuilding. This valuation basis is governed by policy declarations and Connecticut insurance statutes under Section 38-307. Question 6. A critical examination of Mr. Spencer's commercial property policy shows a limit of $1 million and an 80% coinsurance clause. The building's actual replacement cost is $1,500,000 and the loss was $300,000. How much will the insurer pay, ignoring deductibles? A. $300,000. B. $250,000. C. $200,000. D. $266,667. Answer. Correct answer, D. $266,667. Explanation. Coinsurance formula. Insurer pays equals amount carried amount required x loss equals 10,001,200,000 x equals 0.8333 x equals 266,667 text insurer pays equals left frac text amount carried amount required right times text loss equals left frac 1,001,200,000 right times 300,000 equals 0.8333 times 300,000 equals 266,667 insurer pays equals amount required amount carried x loss equals 12,001,000,000 x equals 0.8333 x equals 266,667 since Mr. Spencer carried less than 80% of the building's replacement cost, $1.2 million, penalty applies. This formula is mandated in ISO policy conditions and by Connecticut insurance laws regulating commercial property indemnification. Question 7. From the perspective of data privacy, what is a Connecticut commercial insurer's obligation under the Gramm-Leach-Bliley Act when collecting client financial information? A. Provide an opt-out form only if clients request it. B. Notify clients of privacy policies annually and allow them to opt out of sharing info. C. Only disclose information internally so no notice is required. D. Collect consent before every marketing communication. Answer. Correct answer, B. Notify clients of privacy policies annually and allow them to opt out of sharing info. Explanation. Under the Gramm-Leach-Bliley at GBA 15 U.S.C. SS 6801, 6809, insurers must provide an annual privacy notice to clients explaining what non-public personal financial information is collected and how it is shared. Clients must be given the opportunity to opt out of third-party information sharing. Connecticut enforces this under C.G.S. SS 38-999 et seq. Question 8. Among the various covered parties under a business auto policy (BAP), which of the following would not typically qualify as an insured for liability coverage? A. The named insured. B. An employee using a company car. C. A customer test driving a dealer-owned vehicle. D. A partner of the business using a covered auto. Answer. Correct answer, C. A customer test driving a dealer-owned vehicle. Explanation. Customers driving vehicles at a dealership are typically excluded under the standard BAT and are instead covered under the auto dealer's coverage form. The standard BAT covers the named insured employees and partners using covered autos but excludes customers unless added via endorsement. This is per the ISO BAT 01 form and Connecticut's Department of Insurance Guide on auto dealer policies. Question 9. The most significant aspect of equipment breakdown coverage is that it insures against losses excluded in most commercial property policies. Which of the following best illustrates this advantage? A. Fire damage from an overloaded circuit. B. Mechanical breakdown of an air conditioning compressor. C. Flood damage to electrical panels. D. Theft of server equipment. Answer. Correct answer. B. Mechanical breakdown of an air conditioning compressor. Explanation. Equipment breakdown insurance covers accidental breakdown of covered equipment, including mechanical and electrical failure. This risk is specifically excluded in most commercial property policies unless endorsed. Events like fire and theft fall under traditional property coverage, while flood is often excluded without NFIP or endorsements. This is based on ISO 20 policy and Connecticut commercial lines underwriting standards. Question 10. Taking into account the role of the declarations page in a commercial property policy, what function does it not serve? A. States the insured's name and address. B. Details the premium due for the policy term. C. Contains the exclusions applicable to the coverage. D. Identifies the property location being insured. Answer. Correct answer. C. Contains the exclusions applicable to the coverage. Explanation. The declarations page outlines who, what, when, and where, including names, addresses, policy period, limits, deductibles, and premiums. It does not contain exclusions, which are located in the insuring agreement and the exclusions section of the main policy form. Its structure is defined in ISO standard forms and reinforced by Connecticut Insurance Regulations, Section 38 to 334. Question 11. When analyzing the operations of Patel's Connecticut Logistics Company, she wants to insure goods in transit internationally. Her standard commercial property policy excludes such exposures. Which of the following best explains why commercial inland marine policy would be necessary for Patel's coverage needs? A. Inland marine policies cover property fixed to building only. B. Inland marine policies provide coverage for movable property and goods in transit. C. Inland marine policies only cover goods stored at warehouse. D. Inland marine policies exclude transit and focus on watercraft only. Answer. Correct answer. B. Inland marine policies provide coverage for movable property and goods in transit. Explanation. Commercial inland marine policies are designed to cover property in transit, property held by bailees, and specialized movable equipment. Risks that standard commercial property policies typically exclude. Since Patel's goods are transported internationally and are movable, inland marine is appropriate. This is consistent with regulations and NAIC inland marine principles addressing coverage gaps in standard property forms. Question 12. In an effort to protect against risks, Octon Ewan, a consultant for a large corporation, is reviewing his professional liability policy. If a client alleges financial loss due to his negligent advice given 2 years ago, but the claim is filed only now, which policy condition primarily determines coverage? A. The policy's aggregate limit. B. Whether the policy is claims made or occurrence. C. The deductible amount. D. The insurer's right to subrogation. Answer. Correct answer. B. Whether the policy is claims made or occurrence. Explanation. Professional liability policies are typically claims made, meaning they cover claims made during the policy period regardless of when the incident occurred, provided it's after the retroactive date. If the claim arose from advice given 2 years ago but was only reported recently, coverage depends on the active claims made policy terms and retroactive date. Is distinction vital in errors and omissions (EO) policies and is governed under Connecticut Insurance Department rules on professional liability filings. Question 13. Given the circumstances, Mr. Evans, a Connecticut-based insured, received a notice that his commercial property policy will be cancelled. According to Connecticut law, what is the minimum advance notice an insurer must provide for non-renewal of such a policy? A. 10 days. B. 20 days. C. 30 days. D. 45 days. Answer. Correct answer. C. 30 days. Explanation. Connecticut law requires insurers to provide at least 30 days advance written notice to the insured before the non-renewal or cancellation of commercial property policies, except for non-payment of premium, which may have shorter notice. This is pursuant to C. G.S. SS 38-317 and related Connecticut Insurance Department regulations ensuring consumer protection and adequate time for coverage replacement. Question 14. Across different scenarios, a business purchases an umbrella policy in addition to its underlying commercial general liability (CGL) and business auto policy (BAP). What is the primary function of this umbrella coverage? A. To provide coverage for losses excluded by underlying policies. B. To increase the limits of liability beyond those of the underlying policies. C. To cover workers' compensation claims. D. To cover first-party property losses. Answer. Correct answer. B. To increase the limits of liability beyond those of the underlying policies. Explanation. Commercial umbrella policies primarily provide excess limits beyond underlying policy limits like CGL and BAP. They generally do not cover excluded risks unless through a drop-down feature. Umbrellas provide a broader layer of financial protection against catastrophic claims. Workers' compensation and property losses are typically excluded. This is standard per ISO commercial umbrella liability forms and recognized by Connecticut insurance market practices. Question 15. In contrast to a situation where an applicant intentionally omits material information, is Morgan mistakenly provides inaccurate information on her application. What distinguishes concealment from misrepresentation in insurance contracts? A. Concealment is accidental, a misrepresentation is intentional. B. Concealment involves failing to disclose facts. A misrepresentation involves making false statements. C. Both are identical and treated the same legally. D. Concealment applies only after the policy is issued. Answer. Correct answer. B. Concealment involves failing to disclose facts. A misrepresentation involves making false statements. Explanation. Concealment is the failure to disclose material facts that an insurer would reasonably rely on, whereas misrepresentation is an affirmative, false statement or inaccurate information given during application. Both may void a policy of material and intentional but are legally distinct concepts. Connecticut law under C. G. S. SS 38-315 clarifies these differences in contract law. Question 16. In summary of a recent loss, Reit's Connecticut retail company suffered theft of funds by trusted employee over several months. Which type of crime insurance coverage is best suited to protect against this exposure? A. Forgery and alteration coverage. B. Employee dishonesty coverage. C. Burglary coverage. D. Robbery coverage. Answer. Correct answer. B. Employee dishonesty coverage. Explanation. Employee dishonesty coverage protects the insured from losses caused by fraudulent acts by employees, such as theft of money or property. Burglary and robbery cover theft by outsiders involving force or unlawful entry, while forgery and alteration cover fraudulent documents. This distinction aligns with the NAIC commercial crime insurance guidelines and is commonly referenced in commercial policy forms. Question 17. Considering the evidence an independent agent in Connecticut collects premiums from a client but fails to remit them promptly to the insurer, causing a policy lapse, what fiduciary duty has the agent violated? A. Duty of loyalty to the insurer only. B. Duty of care in risk assessment. C. Duty to account for and forward client funds. D. Duty to underwrite fairly. Answer. Correct answer. C. Duty to account for and forward client funds. Explanation. Agents have a fiduciary duty to hold and promptly remit premiums collected on behalf of insurers. Failure to do so constitutes misappropriation and breaches duties of loyalty and honesty. Connecticut regulates this under C. G. S. SS 38-769 and licensing laws enforced by the Insurance Commissioner, with potential civil and criminal penalties. Question 18. In the absence of special endorsements, which of the following businesses is least likely to qualify for a standard BOP in Connecticut? A. A small retail clothing store. B. A restaurant with seating for 50 customers. C. A manufacturing plant with 100 employees. D. A professional office, such as an accounting firm. Answer. Correct answer. C. A manufacturing plant with 100 employees. Explanation. Bots are designed for small to medium-sized businesses such as retailers, offices, and restaurants with limited staff and exposure. Manufacturing operations generally involve high-risk, complex exposures and larger workforce, making them ineligible without specialized commercial policies. Connecticut BOP eligibility criteria are consistent with ISO eligibility guidelines and state insurance department standards. Question 19. By evaluating a contractor's surety bond for Connecticut Public Works project, what is the primary obligation of the surety? A. To insure against the contractor's negligence. B. To guarantee the contractor's performance and payment obligations. C. To provide insurance coverage for worksite injuries. D. To indemnify the project owner for delays. Answer. Correct answer. B. To guarantee the contractor's performance and payment obligations. Explanation. Surety bonds are three-party agreements where the surety guarantees to the obligee project owner that the principal contractor will fulfill contractual obligations, including performance and payment. Unlike insurance, the surety expects reimbursement from the contractor for any claims paid. This is governed by Connecticut Surety Bond Law, C.G. SS 4941 et sec. And bonding industry standards. Question 20. The central argument for compliance with the Fair Credit Reporting Act in underwriting commercial insurance is A. To expedite claims payment. B. To ensure accuracy and privacy of consumer information used in underwriting. C. To avoid premium fluctuations. D. To mandate sharing of all consumer data with third parties. Answer. Correct answer. B. To ensure accuracy and privacy of consumer information used in underwriting. Explanation. FCRA regulates how insurers collect and use consumer credit information, ensuring accuracy, confidentiality, and providing consumers rights to dispute errors. It requires insurers to disclose and obtain consent when consumer reports are used, aligning with Connecticut laws enforcing FCRA under 15 U.S.C. SSS 1681 This protects insureds and maintains underwriting fairness. Question 21. Considering the evidence Mr. Whitman owns a Connecticut bakery and installs a faulty oven that overheats, the oven causes a fire damaging the building, which of the following best classifies the overheating oven in terms of risk management? A. Peril, because it directly causes damage. B. Hazard, as it increases the chance of loss. C. Loss, as it is the actual damage incurred. D. Exposure, as it relates to financial stake. Answer. Correct answer. B. Hazard, as it increases the chance of loss. Explanation. A peril is the actual cause of loss. Here, fire. A hazard increases the likelihood or severity of loss. The faulty oven overheating. The loss is the damage itself, fire damage. Exposure relates to the insured's financial interest. This distinction is fundamental in risk management, aligned with Connecticut commercial underwriting guidelines and standard insurance theory per ISO principles. Question 22. When faced with a request from a client to withhold information from an insurer, what is the most ethical and legally appropriate action for a licensed Connecticut commercial lines agent? A. Comply with the client's request to maintain trust. B. Disclose the request to the insurer immediately. C. Ignore the request and proceed with the application. D. Withdraw from representing the client without notice. Answer. Correct answer. B. Disclose the request to the insurer immediately. Explanation. Agents owe a duty of utmost good faith ubirimi fide to insurers and must not withhold material facts or conceal information. Concealing facts violates Connecticut regulations C.G.S. SS 38-769 and ethical standards under the NAIC Producer Mobile Act. The agent must report such requests to avoid complicity in fraud. Question 23. Given the circumstances, is a Tran operates a delivery business in Connecticut. She has a business auto policy with uninsured motorist coverage. A driver without insurance hits her vehicle causing bodily injury. Which of the following statements is true regarding her coverage? A. Coverage applies only to owned vehicles. B. Coverage protects only the driver, not passengers. C. Coverage provides compensation for bodily injury caused by uninsured motorists. D. Coverage does not apply in commercial policies. Answer. Correct answer. C. Coverage provides compensation for bodily injury caused by uninsured motorists. Explanation. Uninsured motorist coverage reimburses insured persons for bodily injury caused by uninsured or hit-and-run drivers. It applies to covered autos, including owned and sometimes hired autos, protecting drivers and passengers. Connecticut mandates coverage in commercial auto policies under C.G. SS 38 to 371. Question 24. To illustrate this point, Mr. Ramirez's commercial property policy excludes flood damage. He wants coverage for potential flood losses. What is the best approach to obtain this coverage? A. Purchase flood endorsement or separate flood policy. B. Rely on business income coverage. C. Ask the insurer to waive the exclusion verbally. D. Increase the policy limits. Answer. Correct answer. 8. Purchase a flood endorsement or separate flood policy. Explanation. Flood is typically excluded from commercial property policies. To cover flood, insureds must purchase either a flood endorsement or participate in the National Flood Insurance Program (NFIP). Verbal waivers are not binding. Increasing limits doesn't add excluded perils. Connecticut recognizes flood risk through NFIP per 44 CFR Parts 5977. Question 25. In the modern context of underwriting, which factor is least likely to negatively impact insurability for a Connecticut commercial lines risk? A. Poor claims history with multiple losses. B. Location in a low crime, low risk area. C. High employee turnover in the insured business. D. Lack of proper safety protocols. Answer. Correct answer. B. Location in a low crime, low risk area. Explanation. A location with low risk generally improves insurability by lowering exposure. Poor claims history, high turnover, and lack of safety increase risk and can lead to denial or higher premiums. Connecticut insurers assess these factors consistent with C.G.S. SS 38 669 3 and industry underwriting standards. Question 26. When presented with a commercial insurer's insolvency, what role does the Connecticut Insurance Guarantee Association (CIGA) play? A. It immediately refunds premiums to all policyholders. B. It handles the claims of insolvent insurers' policyholders up to certain limits. C. It assumes ownership of the insolvent insurer's assets. D. It cancels all policies of the insolvent insurer. Answer. Correct answer. B. It handles the claims of insolvent insurers' policyholders up to certain limits. Explanation. CIGA protects insureds by paying covered claims of insolvent commercial insurers, subject to statutory limits and deductibles per Connecticut Insurance Guarantee Association Act, C.G.S. SSS 38820 to 38825. It does not refund premiums outright, assume ownership, or cancel policies, but facilitates claim payments. Question 27. Despite the fact that a manufacturing plant experiences a mechanical breakdown, the insurer denies the claim, citing an exclusion. Which of the following is a typical exclusion under equipment breakdown coverage? A. Breakdown caused by operator error. B. Breakdown due to power surge. C. Breakdown of HVAC systems. D. Breakdown caused by faulty wiring. Answer. Correct answer. A. Breakdown caused by operator error. Explanation. Equipment breakdown insurance excludes losses caused by operator error or negligence but covers mechanical and electrical failures. Power surges, HVAC breakdowns, and faulty wiring are generally covered unless excluded by endorsements. This exclusion is standard in ISO equipment breakdown coverage, Form EB 020, and consistent with Connecticut underwriting policies. Question 20. The question remains whether a loss resulting from altered company checks signed by a trusted employee would be covered under which crime insurance coverage? A. Employee dishonesty. B. Forgery and alteration. C. Burglary. D. Robbery. Answer. Correct answer. B. Forgery and alteration. Explanation. Forgery and alteration coverage protects against losses from forged or altered negotiable instruments such as checks, drafts, or promissory notes. Employee dishonesty covers theft by employees, but altered company checks specifically fall under forgery and alteration. This aligns with ISO crime forms and Connecticut commercial crime insurance guidelines. Question 29. Based on the information, a fire damages Isley's restaurant, forcing closure for 10 days. She incurs $3,000 weekly in lost income and $1,200 in weekly extra expenses to operate temporary kitchen. The policy has 48-hour waiting period. How much extra expense coverage is payable? A. $12,000. B. $10,800. C. $9,600. D. $7,200. Answer. Correct answer. B. $10,800. Explanation. Extra expense coverage pays for reasonable additional expenses to continue operations, with a 48-hour, 2-day waiting period. 8 days of extra expenses are covered. 8 days x 0.43 equals 1371.44 rounded 8 text days times frac 1207 approx 8 times 171.4 equals 1371.44 text rounded 8 days x 0.43 equals 1371.44 rounded. Since weekly figures are given, prorate for 8 days. 1200x equals 1371.43 days equals 108,001,200 times frac 8 7 equals 1371.43 times 10 text days equals 10,800. 1200x equals 1371.43 days equals 10,800. This follows ISO business income and extra expense coverage forms and Connecticut commercial policy standards. Question 30. Under the assumption that a Connecticut business owner cannot obtain commercial auto insurance in the voluntary market due to high risk, what is the purpose of the Connecticut Automobile Insurance Plan, CAPE? A. To provide affordable coverage to all applicants regardless of risk. B. To ensure that high-risk drivers have access to mandatory minimum insurance. C. To offer coverage only for personal passenger vehicles. D. To replace private insurers in commercial auto lines. Answer. Correct answer. B. To ensure that high-risk drivers have access to mandatory minimum insurance. Explanation. The CAPE exists to provide insurance to drivers who cannot obtain coverage in the voluntary market, guaranteeing access to minimum required coverages, including commercial vehicles in some cases. It is a residual market mechanism, not a replacement for private insurers. This program operates under Connecticut General Statutes at 38 to 374 and related rules.